everyone, and welcome back to Mariana Mas Books. My name is Mariana, and today I'm wearing my headphones, and the sound in the video is probably weird, and that is because I am in the middle of remodeling my bedroom. So at the moment I moved my stuff, and I am filming in a place where the sound is weird, and so I have to put my headphones on. And hopefully in a few weeks, if everything goes according to plan, I will be filming in a different location because I will be having a full-on remodel. In the meantime, I am here with a different kind of video. This is actually a bookish tag, but it comes from TarotTube. So it is a books plus tarot tag. It was created by Lennon Smith, and I of course will link her down below and link her video. And I also saw the response created by my friend Laura at Aquamarine 18 Tarot and Books. This is a tag all about pairing books with major arcana. If you are here from BookTube and you don't do tarot at all and you don't know the cards, please still stick around. I will give a long list of books, and it is always fun to see long lists of books. If you are from BookTube and do enjoy tarot, then please enjoy. This is a fabulous tag, and I would love to see more people from BookTube do it. And if you are from TarotTube, then please welcome. I hope you enjoy. A couple of disclaimers. There are 3 cards where I will mention books that I haven't read but are on my want to read list, and this is kind of cheating because you're supposed to mention books that you already read. But for those 3 cards, those 3 books immediately came to mind and they were perfect. Also, I will leave the Fool for the end because that is the card I struggled most with. And then thirdly, I'm not going to explain the meanings of any card. I'm just going to go on with the list. So please stick around whether you are from BookTube or from TarotTube. So because I'm leaving the Fool for the end, I'm going to start with The Magician. And for this one, I actually have 2 books. I have 1 book for every card, but this is the only card I have 2 books for. Because even though most cards have a myriad of meanings, The Magician is a very clear one where you can take very clear 2 separate paths. So I have books for each. The first one is The Magician as Trickster, and for this one I picked The Lies of Lamora by Scott Lynch, which is a fantasy book set in a sort of like a fantastical medieval Venice. It's not actually Venice, but it's kind of Venice, and it features Lamora, who is the head of a thief crew. They are called the Gentlemen Bastards, and they are very funny, but Locke is a master of disguise and of lying and coming up with schemes and tricks and tricking people. And honestly, when you think as the magician as a trickster, there is no better character than Lamora from The Lies of Lamora. And then the other one is the magician as creator, this act of creation. And for this one I had to pick Amber and Clay by Laura Amy Schltz, which is a historical fiction middle grade novel that is a combination of some sections are written in verse and some sections are written in prose. The sections in verse are, one of them are narrated by a Greek god who is actually the narrator of the story, and then the other is a young Greek slave boy who is the clay part of the title of the book. And then the prose section follows a wealthy Greek girl who is sent to the temple of Aramis to serve her, and she corresponds to the amber portion of the title of the book. The reason why I picked this book is because Rascos, who is the slave boy, he is a slave. He was born into slavery, he's 5 years old, and so he has never known art, he has never seen art, because he has always lived in the stables all his life and he hasn't done anything except work in the stables, and that's it. And there is one scene, there won't be spoilers in this video, so it's not a spoiler. I'm going to generally describe a scene that is not crucial to the plot, and I'm not even going to describe it very specifically. No spoilers. But there is a scene when Raskos for the first time in his life, witnesses art, and he is absolutely marveled and full of wonder and amazement at this image that is a representation of reality, because he has never seen anything like that in his life. And then further along in the story, there is a moment when he discovers that he himself can create art. And the moment when he discovers that he can create art is the most beautiful and wondrous description I have ever read of the magic that is the act of creation. So there is honestly no perfecter representation of the magician as this magic of creation than Raskos in Amber and Clay. Then we have the High Priestess, and for this one I picked a memoir called A Ghost in the Throat by Doireann Ghríofa. Doireann Ghríofa is an Irish poet, and she writes about her connection, her intellectual, spiritual, personal, emotional connection to an Irish female poet from, I think, the 1700s. I will correct myself in the screen if it's not. But basically, Doireann Ghríofa, when she was a teenager, she reads a poem written by this other Irish poet, whose name I will put on screen because at the moment I can't remember it, I'm sorry. And she becomes obsessed with this poem. And so this memoir is a combination of the author's life and an emphasis on maternity and being a woman. And she parallels or she explores her own life through exploring the life of this poet. So she makes it like an academic project for herself to learn about the life of this poet. But because she is a woman in history, of course there's nothing written about her, and so she has to, Doireann Ghríofa has to reconstruct the life of this poet through studying the history of the time, etc. So this is a book about being a woman, about femininity, about knowledge, like female knowledge, about female connection through time. It has like this folklore, magical, spiritual vibe. It's not about magic by any means, but I mean, it's called A Ghost in the Throat, and the whole vibe is very ghostly. I don't know how to explain it. You have to read this book. It's amazing. Everyone has to read this book. One of my favorite memoirs. But you know, women knowledge, connecting to women through time, intellectually, artistically, emotionally. The literal first sentence of this book is, "This is a female text." I think it screams High Priestess. Then we have the Empress, and for this one I'm going for a very straightforward pick, and that is When Women Rule the World by Cooney. And this one is a non-fiction book about 5 Egyptian female pharaohs. So the book follows these 5 women, and it talks about how in the Egyptians are the only culture where women were allowed to be kings, or in this case pharaohs. Cooney talks about the fact that there are no female kings, but in Egypt there were female pharaohs. Women rulers, the empress, it was a pretty straightforward choice. And for the emperor, I also went for a straightforward nonfiction pick, which is Powers and Thrones by Dan Jones. And I picked this one because it's a nonfiction book about the Middle Ages in Europe. So, of course, there is a lot of talk about emperors and kings and all of that. And specifically, they mention the invention of the concept of the Holy Roman Emperor. And if you think about the Marseille Emperor, I mean, you can't get any more Marseille Emperor than the Holy Roman Emperor. And in this book, you learn about when this concept was created, obviously for profit of the emperor in question and the Vatican both. It was all about power. And so, this is a perfect book for the emperor, in my opinion. Then we have the Hierophant, and for the Hierophant, I wanted to veer away from religion, and I tried, and I wanted to look for a book that gave me Hierophant feelings in the sense of teacher, mentor, etc. But I had to go with a religious nonfiction, and it is The Jesuit Guide to Almost Everything by James Martin. James Martin is a Jesuit priest, and I am a Catholic, and in my family we have like a long relationship with Jesuits. My dad went to a Jesuit school. I went to a Jesuit school. My dad worked in a Jesuit university. I went to that Jesuit university. My parents have a lot of Jesuit friends, and just Jesuits have been present all my life. If you are like about religion, just know that Jesuits are the rebels of Catholicism. So in this book, it's basically just like a summary of the spiritual teachings of Saint Ignatius, who is the creator of the Jesuits. Big Hierophant figure in my life, in my personal life. And this book is honestly amazing. Like, it's super humorous. I actually got this book because the title made me chuckle, and then when I turned the book around, in the back cover there's a picture of Saint Ignatius, and it says Saint Ignatius to the rescue, and I just thought it was hilarious. And James Martin is very funny. He intersperses jokes between the pages. He's the kind of priest who will talk about connecting to God through sex. That's the kind of priests that Jesuits are. So I'm not going to turn this into a Jesuit gush, but the Hierophant, I had to go there. Then we have The Lovers, and as a big romance reader, one would think that I would pick a romance novel for this prompt, for this card, but I actually went with a classic, and it is The Tenant of Wildfell Hall by Anne Brontë. And the reason why I chose this book is because this is all about choice in your partner, about choosing your partner and the way that choice affects your life. The main character, she has a lot of reflections about that, about how to choose your partner, about how important it is, about what women are not told when they choose their partners and what they should be told. And just in general, it's a story about the impact that choice has in your life. So I thought it was a perfect choice for The Lovers. And then for the Chariot, I picked The Lions of Al-Rassan by Gavriel, which is a fantasy novel, my current all-time favorite book. I read this year. I'm obsessed. I can't stop thinking about it, and this one immediately came to mind. And I think especially if I think of the Marseille Chariot, where, it's very medieval and very about like victory and that type of thing. This is a book that features a lot of travel and a lot of armies traveling and like military leaders being exiled and going from one place to another, and their people, their men, their soldiers following them and moving around a lot. I forgot to say, but this is a historical fantasy based on medieval Spain, so the medieval vibes are on point. So, travel, victory, military leaders, medieval period, screams Marseille Chariot to me. Then we have strength, and I struggled with this one because strength is such a good card, and I wanted a really good book, and I ended up going with Heart That Works by Rob Delaney, which is a memoir I read this year, and it is a grief memoir about a father who is grieving and learning how to deal with the grief of his 1-year-old son dying to brain cancer. It is a book full of anger and love and humor, and I just think that's a perfect combination of characteristics to showcase strength and the strength required to overcome such a difficult thing in life. Then we have The Hermit, and for The Hermit, it's one of the books that I haven't read but is on my want to read list, and it is Wintering: The Power of Rest and Retreat in Difficult Times by Katherine May. I was thinking of what book to choose for The Hermit, and honestly, The Power of Retreat, it sounds perfect for The Hermit. I haven't read this book, but it is on my want to read list. It is on my shelf, so I will read it eventually. Then we have The Wheel of Fortune, and for this one I picked Fool's Fate by Robin Hobb. And one would think that this would be a good choice for the Fool based on the title, but actually the Fool character in these books has nothing to do with the Fool archetype. In the tarot, he is all about fate and like the movement of time and the cycles of time and your fate within that movement and the consequences of the decisions that you take and how that affects the time and the future. And I just feel like it's a very Wheel of Fortune. I won't say more about it because this is a 9th book in a fantasy series, so I can't talk about it without spoiling something. So I will just leave it at that, but trust me, The Fool from the Realm of the Elder Links by Robin Hobb is a perfect character for the Wheel of Fortune. Then we have Justice, and for this one I picked Care Work: Dreaming Disability Justice by Leah, Lakshmi, Piepzna-Saramasinha, and this is a non-fiction book about disability justice. It is an excellent read. I would highly recommend, and honestly it's a perfect pick for the Justice card. Then we have The Hangman, and for this one I picked The Remains of the Day by Kazuo Ishiguro. And this one I picked because the main character, Stevens, he is a butler who is living in the time period when the big English houses are in decay, and so butlers, that type of thing, are no longer super relevant, and so he's kind of stuck in time and stuck in the past. This is also one of my favorite books, and it is all about like nostalgia and suspension in a time past, and it's very heart-wrenching but excellent. And it was the first book that came to mind when I thought of The Hangman. Then we have Death, and for this one I picked The Heart by Maylis de Kerangal, which is a literary fiction novel I also read this year and will also become one of my favorite books. And this is about a young surfer who dies, and he is going to donate his organs, and the book specifically focuses on his heart, hence the title or the translated title. And that's not a spoiler, that's literally how the book begins, and you know that this is going to happen. So in this book you follow from that event all the way to the organ donation through 24 hours, and you just follow different characters in this man's life, characters that are related to this story within 24 hours. But because it's about a man dying and donating his organs, which is, a way to give life from your death, it explores a lot the topic of death and what it means to die. And I don't know, I just thought it was a perfect book for this card, specifically, this topic of like organ donation. And then we have Temperance, which is my favorite card in the deck, and for this one I picked The Curse of Chalion by Lois McMaster Bujold, which is a fantasy novel about a kingdom in trouble. This is an excellent fantasy book. This is what all feminist fantasy should be like. but the reason I picked it for Temperance is the main character we are following, Lord Gavriel. He is the embodiment of temperance, I think. When I thought of Temperance, he immediately came to mind. He is a character who has suffered a lot of trauma and violence in his life, and he doesn't perpetrate that violence and that trauma. He chooses to instead be kind and be moderate, just live his life in a quiet and kind way, who also happens to affect positively the lives of everyone around him, because Temperance can do that even though it has a bad reputation. Then we have the Devil, and for this one I picked The Master and Margarita by Mikhail Bulgakov. This one is actually a classic that I haven't read, but it's high on my classics list. It's a classic book with paranormal themes. Everyone says it's super weird, and one of the characters is the devil. You can see the cover, and I think it screams devil. It immediately came to mind, and probably it screams devil because one of the characters is the devil. But yeah, I really want to read this one. Then we have the Tower, and for the Tower I picked The Sparrow by Mary Doria Russell. This is one of those books that immediately came to mind. I didn't even think about it. This is a first contact story. So a recording comes to Earth that becomes very clear that is from an alien race. It's a recording of music, and the music is so out of this world that it is evident that it comes from an alien race in an alien planet. And so a mission is put together to go and see this alien race. And within the crew there is a Jesuit priest. Again, the Jesuits. I picked this for the Tower because this character, the Jesuit priest, goes through the biggest Tower moment, life period, Tower years I have ever seen in fiction. This character goes through a lot of things that make him question everything he believes, everything he thinks he knows about God, about God's existence, about his relationship with God, about the meaning of life, about just every single thing. He lives through an experience that changes everything he thought he knew. If that doesn't scream Tower, I don't know what does. This book comes with so many trigger warnings. Please look them up because it is honestly the most uncomfortable, difficult book I have ever read in my entire life, even though it is excellent. And then we have the Star, and for the Star I picked The Lord of the Rings, which is my all-time favorite book, period. I said that with the Lions of Al-Rassan, but that is because The Lord of the Rings is my core book. It's not even a book anymore to me. It's just part of my life. And so that is why I call other books my all-time favorites, because The Lord of the Rings is just a piece of my life and my soul at this point. But the reason why I chose it for the start is because of the overall theme of hope that is interwoven throughout the story. The story is basically about hope, and it's just the start. Then we have The Moon, and for this one I chose Becoming Leah by Michelle Grierson. I read this book 2 or 3 years ago, so I don't remember the plot exactly, and that is because it is a very moon book. It is very mysterious. You don't quite know exactly what's going on. It's not a multi-point of view. It's just one of those where there are different stories being told at different times and you piece everything together. So the way I can kind of sum up the book is this is a paranormal folklore magical story about women and Selkies and water and folklore and ancestral magic and people in the modern world not understanding and shunning things they don't understand, like magic and water and women and Selkies, and I will leave it at that, but I think that gives you Moon. Then we have The Sun, and for this one I just wanted to pick a book that is just pure joy, that I just grab the book and it immediately makes me smile, and that is Winnie the Pooh by A.A. Milne, one of my other favorite books. There are so many favorite books in this list, and I don't think I even need to explain it. It is an excellent book. It is endearing and wholesome, but also philosophical. It's one of those that is so simple, but you can learn a lot about life. And it never fails to put a smile on your face because it's so simple and wholesome and perfect. Speaking about divination, this is a book that I've always wanted to try to do bibliomancy with because I feel it would be excellent. But that's neither here nor there. Then we have Judgment. I'm almost done. Then we have Judgment. And for this one I picked, with the end in mind, Death, Dying, and Wisdom in an Age of Denial by Katherine Mannix. This is a nonfiction book about the importance of accepting death, talking about death, thinking about death, normalizing death, and how that impacts everything. The reason why I picked it for the Judgment card is because Judgment can be like this wake-up call or opening of your eyes or like something like that, and this book changed my... It's one of those books that can honestly tell you that has changed me. It's the book that started my death positivity journey and just opened my eyes and my mind to a way of thinking, and I just think it's perfect for Judgment. Finally, we have The World, and for this one is the only one I'm going to show you physically because I wanted to. And this is a poetry collection that is sadly not translated to English. I have talked about this in the past, but it is Una ballena es un país by Isabel Zapata. The translation, literal translation would be A Whale is a Country by Isabel Zapata, who is a Mexican author. And this is a poetry collection about animals. Each poem is about a different animal. So I think that is perfect for The World. But also, I just really love the idea of this super small, tiny unassuming book being the world. I don't know, just conceptually I'm obsessed with that idea of such a small thing being the world. Oh, and finally, I almost forgot the Fool, and I was going to go on a whole reflection about why I struggled with the Fool, but I'm hungry and I've been talking a long time, so I won't. I'm just going to tell you that I struggled to pick a book for the Fool, and so I picked one that is not my choice, but it's a perfect choice. And the reason is because I saw it actually in a video about a bookish deck. Each card is a book, including the minors. And the card for the Fool is Don Quixote. And I thought Don Quixote is a perfect choice for the Fool. And so I am going with Don Quixote for the Fool. And that would be it for today, for this video. Thank you so much for watching. If you are a booktuber who likes tarot, please do this tag and let me know. I would love to see your video. And if you are a tarot tuber who loves to read, also please do this tag, because not a lot of tarot tubers have done it either. Or maybe they're just like me, who took months to do it and are going to do it after. That will be it for today. I'm going to stop talking. I hope you enjoyed this video. I will see you soonish in another bookish video, and in the meantime I wish you happy reading.